Intimacy of touch with Moon in Aquarius. With the Moon in Aquarius, touch is both a puzzle and a paradox. You long for connection, but on your own terms. You can crave closeness while simultaneously pulling back from it. Your emotional system is wired for space, not because you don't feel deeply, but because you feel differently. Touch must feel conscious, not clingy. Intentional, not invasive. Your Moon doesn't respond to affection that assumes, it opens to affection that asks. You often connect through mental rapport first. A brush of the hand may not move you unless it's backed by shared understanding, mutual vision, or emotional neutrality. You feel safest when touch isn't emotionally loaded. The second it becomes too intense, too needy, too possessive, you may detach. Your Moon wants freedom and closeness, not fusion. And unless the emotional environment feels light and mutual, your body might quietly retreat. You are rarely soothed by generic gestures. A spontaneous back rub or sudden hug might make you freeze if it arrives without context or timing. But when someone knows how to reach you, on the shoulder, in passing, with calm awareness, you soften. You don't need theatrical affection. You need presence with precision. Touch that respects your airiness, your unpredictability, your need to stay observant, even in intimacy. In relationships, you often offer affection sparingly, but when you do, it's unique, playful, symbolic. You might reach for someone in odd moments, while laughing, sharing a strange thought, or walking in silence together. You don't use touch to mirror cultural expectations. You use it to affirm connection on a wavelength you trust. Your love language may look eccentric, but it's deeply sincere. Your detachment is often misunderstood. People may assume you're emotionally cold, when really, you're just processing differently. You need time to think before you feel, to analyze before you surrender. Touch that rushes your body before your mind is ready can make you uncomfortable. But when someone gives you space to acclimate, to breathe in closeness before engaging fully, you come alive. And beneath that distance lies a private longing to be touched without being captured, to be held without being interpreted. You want someone who understands that your independence isn't a wall, it's a signal, that your autonomy is part of your emotional trust. And when you feel that trust respected, your physical affection becomes surprising, electric, and full of strange, beautiful loyalty. To deepen this intimacy, start by naming your rhythms. Say, I warm up slowly to physical closeness, but when I feel safe, I love deeply. Or, touch lands more with me when it's attuned to mood, not expectation. These aren't disclaimers, they're pathways. They let someone meet you in a way that honors your inner tempo, rather than forcing you into someone else's script. And allow yourself to lean into contact before it makes perfect sense. Let your body have its own say. Let someone hold your hand when your words are scattered. Let a forehead press happen without overthinking what it means. Sometimes, touch teaches you what your mind hasn't yet translated. Because when touch becomes a bridge, not a bind, when it's laced with respect for your freedom rather than demand for your vulnerability, your Aquarius Moon finds the kind of intimacy it can finally rest inside. A closeness that allows you to remain yourself, even while being deeply, tangibly loved. Intimacy of sensate with Moon in Aquarius. With the Moon in Aquarius, your relationship to the senses is intellectual before it is emotional. You don't just absorb the world through feeling, you interpret it, step back from it, observe it with a kind of curious detachment. Your sensory system is finely tuned, but not sentimental. You notice tone, color, expression, and energy shifts the way a radar notices signals. It's not about softness, it's about data. And for intimacy to land through sensation, it must feel meaningful, unusual, and most of all, free of emotional manipulation. You're not easily swayed by traditional romantic cues. Scented candles, slow music, and whisper-soft voices might feel awkward unless they're infused with authenticity. Your Moon isn't drawn to curated emotional experiences. It craves originality. Sensory connection for you begins in surprise. The scent of someone's skin that reminds you of a specific city, the way their voice drops when they speak a truth, the strangeness of silence that feels safe. These are the things that crack you open, not cliches, but the rare, the unexpected, the real. Sound affects you deeply, but not in obvious ways. A monotonous tone can make you emotionally withdraw, while a spontaneous laugh can bring you fully present. You notice the inconsistencies in people's voices, the way they say your name when they're distracted versus when they're attuned, the way someone chews when they're annoyed. Your nervous system listens for pattern shifts, and these shifts tell you more than words ever could. When someone's sensory field feels congruent, you trust it. When it doesn't, you drift. Touch, smell, and sight are often filtered through logic. You might feel a wave of arousal, sadness, or comfort and not react until your brain can label it. Sometimes this causes a delay in emotional responsiveness. People may think you're aloof, when in reality, you're processing a sensory influx. Your moon prefers to analyze before you surrender. But when a sensory experience is safe, non-possessive, and interesting, it opens a door to closeness that bypasses your defenses completely. You are drawn to sensory environments that feel clean, uncluttered, and mentally stimulating. Chaotic spaces overwhelm you. Overly emotional spaces make you retreat. You may express love by adjusting the lighting, curating a playlist, or choosing the precise moment to touch someone, not to control the vibe, but to make space for clarity. You use sensation to create neutrality so that emotions can breathe on their own without pressure. And yet, beneath your cool exterior, you crave a kind of intimacy that sees you clearly without requiring you to be emotionally raw. You want someone to perceive the subtle ways you show affection, the offhand compliments, the casual shoulder bump, the cup of coffee made exactly how they like it. You need someone who recognizes your sensory expressions of love as legitimate, even when they don't come wrapped in traditional warmth. Receiving sensory attention can feel invasive if it's too emotional too soon. A lingering stare might make you uncomfortable. A too gentle touch can feel infantilizing. You want to be engaged with, not soothed. Stimulated, not swaddled. Your moon doesn't need pampering, it needs resonance. You want to feel that someone sees your whole field, not just your heart. That they're tuned in, not to your wounds, but to your wavelength. To deepen this kind of intimacy, share what moves you, however unconventional. Say, I feel most connected when things are mentally calm and physically spontaneous. Say, I show affection in odd ways, but they're always intentional. These statements aren't barriers, they're invitations. They give your partner the opportunity to step into your internal circuitry with curiosity instead of assumption, and give yourself permission to respond to sensation in real time. Let the taste of a shared meal anchor a memory. Let the press of someone's palm quiet your thoughts. Let your body feel before your brain has finished categorizing it. You don't have to intellectualize every moment to trust it. Sensation can be a truth all on its own. Because when sensory intimacy is approached with respect for your need for space, individuality, and mental clarity, your Aquarius moon finds the kind of closeness it didn't think was possible. Attunement without entanglement. Presence without pressure. A shared reality that doesn't demand you to feel more, but gives you permission to feel freely. Intimacy of kindness with moon in Aquarius. Kindness for your Aquarius moon must feel genuine and unintrusive. You don't respond well to performative sweetness or excessive emotional coaxing. You read the emotional field with high sensitivity to authenticity. And if kindness comes with a hidden agenda, obligation, or too much emotional intensity, you'll feel it instantly and take a step back. Your moon doesn't reject kindness. It just requires that it be clean, clear, and respectful of your autonomy. You thrive in relationships where people show compassion through presence, not pressure. When someone checks in without hovering, when they remember your odd preferences without making a show of it, when they accept your need for space without interpreting it as disinterest. These are the quiet forms of kindness that disarm you, because they let you stay you while still being cared for. Your moon equates love with room to breathe, not emotional enmeshment. Sometimes you deflect kindness out of reflex. A sincere compliment may be waved off with humor. An offer to help might be declined even if you need it. This isn't pride, it's protection. Your Aquarius moon has learned that dependency can come with emotional strings. You'd rather figure it out yourself than risk becoming beholden to someone's moods or expectations. Kindness that feels controlling, even subtly, makes you uneasy. At the same time, you often extend enormous kindness to others, though it may not look traditionally sentimental. You might check on a friend's project, send them something obscure but perfectly matched to their interests, or hold space for their weirdness without judgment. Your love expresses through acceptance. You show you care by making room for someone's uniqueness, not trying to fix their discomfort, but letting it exist with dignity. But your detachment can sometimes hide your own need for kindness. People may assume you don't need emotional support because you rarely ask for it. You tend to keep your feelings private, even from those closest to you, because emotional exposure can feel overwhelming. You've learned to handle yourself. Still, beneath the calm and the cool, there's a longing to be held, not with intensity, but with consistency. To feel that someone's care doesn't depend on how openly emotional you are. You feel most loved when kindness is steady and intelligent, when it's attuned to your energy but not smothering. When someone senses you've had a hard day and offers help without asking you to explain why. When someone gives without trying to get in. These gestures matter more than grand emotional displays. You value kindness that respects your need for independence and meets you without expectation of reciprocity in the moment. Receiving this kind of kindness can actually deepen your ability to trust. Because once you realize that someone's care doesn't come with emotional contracts, your nervous system relaxes. You stop bracing. You let their affection reach you in the subtler places, the ones you've kept hidden even from yourself. But that only happens when kindness is offered without urgency. You open through patience, not pressure. To foster this kind of intimacy, name what kindness means to you. Say, I appreciate when people check on me quietly without making it a big thing. Or, I show love through support, but I'm not always quick to say what I need. These statements don't push people away. They draw them closer by giving them a clear route to care for you in a way you can actually receive, and challenge yourself to let it in. Especially when someone offers support that doesn't violate your space. Let them cook for you. Let them drive you home. Let them sit with you in silence without feeling like you have to entertain or explain. Let someone offer softness without assuming it's a trap. Because when kindness is offered as recognition, not rescue, as a hand extended, not a net, you feel emotionally safe. Your Aquarius Moon begins to discover that true intimacy doesn't require you to melt or merge. It simply asks you to be open in your own language, on your own terms. A love that says, you don't have to feel deeply in front of me to be deeply understood. You just have to stay real, and let me stay close. Intimacy of growth with Moon in Aquarius. Growth for your Aquarius Moon is sacred, not in the emotional sense, but in the evolutionary one. You thrive in relationships that allow room to change, shift, invent, question. If intimacy doesn't include progress, your spirit begins to suffocate. You don't want love that repeats the past. You want love that evolves with you, mentally, emotionally, philosophically. Growth is not optional for you. It's the framework through which you remain invested, connected, alive. You're wired for the future, and you're often emotionally ahead of the moment. This gives you a coolness that some may misread as detachment. But the truth is, you're scanning. Where is this going? How are we maturing as individuals and as a unit? If you sense that your emotional life is stagnating or stuck in cycles, your moon begins to disconnect, not out of cruelty, but out of misalignment. You need a connection that keeps moving. You may not voice your emotional needs directly, but you'll begin experimenting, dropping hints, testing boundaries, proposing changes to routines or dynamics. You do this not to be difficult, but to open new portals, new emotional intelligence, new emotional language. Growth for you is sparked through disruption, not drama, but thoughtful evolution. You want someone who welcomes that process, not someone who resists it. You also require intellectual and ideological expansion. A partner's ability to think critically, challenge norms, and embrace unconventional insights is essential. You want conversations that stretch your perspective. You want to feel like you're building something larger than comfort, something that matters. A stagnant, emotional landscape, no matter how warm, will eventually push you toward emotional distance or rebellion. At the same time, your need for progress can make emotional messiness feel like regression. You may rush past pain before it's been processed, reframing it too quickly in an effort to move on. But healing often asks for slowness, something your moon isn't always comfortable with. You may avoid hard emotions not because you fear them, but because you fear staying stuck in them. Yet true growth requires dwelling before evolving. You're also prone to outgrowing people. You don't mean to, but your capacity for reinvention means you're constantly reevaluating what intimacy means and who you are within it. If someone clings to a static version of you or the relationship, you feel trapped. The most nourishing relationships for you are the ones that say, "I'm growing too," without making you feel guilty for your own expansion. But you fear being misunderstood in this growth, that someone will accuse you of being cold, distant, or selfish when really, you're evolving into a more authentic version of yourself. You fear being punished for needing space, for needing to question what most people protect, and so you sometimes hide your process. You grow in private, not out of secrecy, but out of emotional self-protection. To deepen intimacy, invite your partner into that evolution. Say, "Sometimes I change fast, but I want you with me." Or, "I don't always emote traditionally, but I care deeply about our direction." These words build bridges, letting someone grow with you rather than feel left behind by your inner revolutions. And allow others to grow at their own pace, even when it's slower or more emotional than your rhythm. Resist the urge to speed up their healing or push them toward clarity. Your patience in someone else's transformation is the same grace you seek for your own. Because when growth is mutual, not coerced, not performative, but real, your Aquarius Moon finds the intimacy it secretly longs for. A partnership rooted not in control, but in co-evolution. Not in rigid identity, but in shared becoming. A love that isn't afraid of the future. A bond that thrives because it's allowed to change. Intimacy of activity with Moon. Activity, for your Aquarius Moon, is more than motion, it's meaning in motion. You bond through shared engagement in something larger than yourselves, building a vision, solving a problem, exploring an idea, working toward a cause. You rarely feel emotionally safe through idle intimacy. You need to do something together, something intentional, possibly unusual, ideally innovative. Activity isn't just how you connect, it's how you maintain autonomy within connection. Your Moon prefers parallel motion over deep emotional immersion. You're more likely to open up while doing something, walking, assembling a project, even watching a documentary, than while sitting face to face in pure emotional stillness. Action gives you a safe perimeter through which intimacy can emerge indirectly. It allows your body and mind to sync with someone's energy without having to expose yourself emotionally in ways that feel forced or overwhelming. You find deep satisfaction in shared rituals that stimulate your intellect or create tangible results. This could be a collaborative playlist, a social experiment, a weekend plan built around a theme, anything that engages the mind and allows for creativity and curiosity. You connect not by mirroring feelings, but by sharing ideas. Doing something new together isn't a distraction for your Moon, it's a pathway to presence. Still, you don't enjoy activity just for activity's sake. Meaningless busyness or surface-level social routines drain you. You may say yes to plans out of politeness, but internally long for solitude or a more engaging form of exchange. You need activity to feel purposeful, aligned with values or shared interests. When it does, you come alive. When it doesn't, your Moon may quietly go offline, even in a room full of people. You often prefer communal experiences over intensely personal ones. Volunteering together, collaborating on a side project, attending a lecture, or engaging in a progressive community action, these shared endeavors create emotional bridges that feel safe and enriching. You bond through participation. When someone joins you in your world of movement and vision, it tells you, they understand me. But when a partner doesn't engage, resists involvement, or defaults to passive roles, you begin to feel emotionally isolated. You may not immediately complain, but a gap opens. Your Moon wants to feel like you're building something side by side, even if it's just a conversation worth having. Activity to you is how emotional investment becomes visible. When someone won't move with you, your trust starts to waver. You also need room for eccentricity in how you structure shared time. Your preferences might not follow the usual date night format, and you often thrive in unexpected or unconventional settings. Letting your partner into your offbeat habits or interests is an intimate act. It says, "This is how I live when no one's watching." If they can meet you there, not just tolerate it, but participate, your moon begins to soften. At times, your desire for independence can lead you to keep activities separate, even in close relationships. You may insist on having your own projects, space, or schedule, but your deepest intimacy comes when you let someone overlap with your independence, not erase it. When the activity is shared, but the individuality remains intact. When two orbits merge briefly, then part again without losing momentum. To deepen this form of intimacy, invite your partner into your activity-based world with clarity. Say, "I feel most connected when we're doing something together that challenges us." Or, "I show affection by creating shared experiences. I'd love for you to be part of them." These aren't demands, they're doors. They give others a chance to participate in your rhythm rather than guessing how to reach you. Because when activity becomes a shared field, not just of effort, but of imagination, your Aquarius moon finds a form of intimacy it can finally relax into. Companionship that respects distance, collaboration that fuels connection, and motion that doesn't blur your individuality, but amplifies it. A love that moves with you, not against you. A bond that builds, not by pulling you inward, but by walking beside you, eyes ahead, heart aligned. Intimacy of allowance with moon in Aquarius. Allowance for your Aquarius moon is love expressed as freedom. Not the freedom to escape intimacy, but the freedom to remain intact within it. You don't open through pressure, emotional urgency, or intensity. You open through space. You need to know that you can be held without being handled. That your emotions can exist in their own rhythm without someone hovering too close, trying to manage what even you are still learning to name. Your emotional landscape is complex and often nonlinear. You may feel disconnected before you feel deeply. You might process events in abstraction before sensing their emotional weight. And so when people demand immediacy, "Tell me how you feel right now," or "React like this means something," your moon tightens. You can't be coerced into intimacy. You need the time and trust to come to it authentically. You crave connection, but only if it allows for sovereignty. You don't want a relationship that blurs you into sameness. You want a relationship that respects your intellectual autonomy, your unconventional rhythms, your need to sometimes detach in order to recalibrate. For you, intimacy isn't about emotional merging, it's about mutual respect for divergence. To be truly close to someone is to be able to drift without fear of rupture. But allowance isn't just about space from others. It's also the space to be emotionally different. You may not cry when expected or respond to affection with predictable warmth. You might freeze when others reach for closeness, not because you don't care, but because your moon needs a moment to interpret what's happening. You want a partner who won't take this personally, who sees your quiet withdrawal not as rejection, but as processing. You are often highly tolerant of others' differences. You allow people to be odd, inconsistent, nonlinear. You hold emotional space in a uniquely neutral way, without trying to fix, reshape, or control. But what you rarely allow yourself is to be seen in your own contradictions. When your emotions don't align with your ideals, when you feel jealousy, longing, or unexpected dependence, you may judge yourself or shut down, believing these feelings are irrational or regressive. That's where true allowance must begin, with your own emotional chaos. To let yourself feel, even when the feeling doesn't make sense. To sit with your own discomfort without trying to override it with logic. You don't have to earn permission to feel. You just have to stop treating feeling like a flaw. When you find a partner who offers this kind of permission, who says, "You don't have to be emotionally neat for me to stay," you begin to exhale. Slowly, cautiously, your moon starts to trust that your freedom doesn't threaten the relationship, that your complexity doesn't diminish your worth, that love doesn't disappear when you step out of the emotional frame. To deepen this kind of intimacy, speak openly about your need for emotional space. Say, "I take time to understand how I feel, but I always come back when I'm ready." Say, "I need space to think and process, but that doesn't mean I'm not invested." These boundaries aren't walls. They're invitations into your truth, written in the language of mutual respect, and in turn, offer others the same allowance you crave. Let them feel intensely without needing to match them. Let their emotions rise and fall without trying to stabilize or detach from them too quickly. Being present without editing someone else's expression is one of the most intimate acts your Aquarius moon can perform. Because when allowance becomes not distance, but depth with freedom, not detachment, but mutual permission, you find the intimacy your moon has always dreamed of. Connection that doesn't clip your wings, presence that doesn't ask for performance, and love that lets you be whole without being held too tightly. A bond that breathes with you, not through you. Intimacy of receiving with moon in Aquarius. Receiving love with an Aquarius moon can feel strangely disruptive. You're so used to being the observer, the supporter, the one who offers space and understanding, that to suddenly be on the receiving end of affection, attention, or care can stir discomfort. Not because you don't want it, but because your emotional system is calibrated more for autonomy than for dependence. Receiving requires stillness, vulnerability, and emotional presence, all things your moon often holds at arm's length. When someone gives to you, emotionally, physically, or even logistically, you may instinctively intellectualize it. What does this mean? What do they want? Am I now expected to give something back? Your mind rushes to make sense of the moment before your body even has time to feel it. You may analyze kindness before allowing it in. And if the gift feels too emotionally loaded, you might detach or deflect as a form of energetic protection. You prefer to earn love rather than absorb it. Your Aquarius moon often equates value with contribution, not receptivity. It feels safer to be useful than to be adored. So when someone offers you something without asking for anything in return, whether it's a gentle word, a thoughtful gesture, or pure presence, you might freeze. You may not know where to place the feeling, and that can make receiving feel like exposure rather than nourishment. You also fear being changed by what you receive. If someone gives deeply, especially in ways that awaken emotional terrain you haven't mapped, you might quietly resist. You like to maintain clarity, distance, and a sense of self that isn't tangled in others' emotions. Receiving can blur those lines. It can make you feel emotionally indebted, even if no one asks for repayment. So you monitor it. You might accept the gift, but block the intimacy. And yet, you crave to be understood without having to perform for it. You long for a kind of love that shows up with no agenda, no pressure to respond, no desire to mold you, no fear of your stillness. When someone gives you something simply because they see you, and not because they're trying to fix, seduce, or claim you, that's when your moon begins to soften. That's when you start to trust the offering. You receive best when the energy is light, clean, and egalitarian. You don't want to be overwhelmed. You want to be invited. A quiet offering, a subtle gesture, a thoughtful comment that lands without emotional demand, these are the things that move you. And when someone gives in a way that preserves your space, your independence, your weirdness, you remember it forever. But to truly receive, you have to resist the impulse to immediately equalize. You don't need to give back in the same moment. You don't need to apologize for needing. Let love land without converting it into usefulness. Let someone carry you, even if just a little. Let someone stay, even if you don't yet know how to say thank you in the language they might expect. To foster this form of intimacy, express your nervousness around receiving. Say, I'm not always sure how to respond to care, but I want to learn how to let it in. Or, sometimes it takes me a while to trust that I don't need to give something back right away. These confessions don't diminish your independence. They make your inner world more accessible, more reachable, more human. And let yourself receive without editing. Let the affection linger. Let the compliment be absorbed. Let the quiet generosity of someone's presence recalibrate your sense of safety. You don't have to solve everything alone. You don't have to be above the emotional economy. You're allowed to be loved, deeply, awkwardly, sincerely, because when receiving becomes less about decoding and more about feeling, when it stops threatening your autonomy and starts deepening your belonging, your Aquarius moon experiences a profound shift. Intimacy is no longer a trap to escape, but a frequency to tune into. Not a loss of freedom, but a portal to connection where nothing about you has to change in order to be worthy of care. Just open the door and let it in. Intimacy of giving with moon in Aquarius. Giving for your Aquarius moon is love translated into principle. You offer care not through overt sentimentality, but through thoughtfulness, originality, and unwavering presence in someone's world. You don't always show affection the normal way. You might not shower someone with physical affection or emotional declarations, but when you give, it's intelligent, subtle, and surprisingly impactful. You give like a blueprint, designed, specific, and meant to last. You tend to offer support in forms that expand someone's autonomy. You don't hover. You empower. You listen without judgment, encourage their weirdest ideas, send them articles that match their niche obsessions, or help them rebuild themselves after personal collapse, not by coddling, but by standing quietly beside them, offering solutions when they're ready. Your love is cool on the surface, but deeply loyal underneath. Your giving often shows up through mental energy. You think about people constantly, what they need, what might inspire them, how they could grow. You might invent something that makes their life easier, or create distance when they need space without asking. But this generosity is often misread because it doesn't fit traditional emotional molds. Others may not recognize how much of yourself you're offering unless they're tuned into your wavelength. You don't like to give when it feels expected or emotionally demanded. If someone constantly seeks reassurance or dramatizes their needs, your moon begins to shut down. You want to give because it feels true, not because someone insists. And when your giving becomes taken for granted or manipulated, you may cut the cord abruptly, not with revenge, but with resolve. You give freely, but only to those who respect the freedom in it. There's a subtle boundary in how you give. You want to be helpful, not absorbed. You fear that too much emotional giving will erode your identity, your independence, your clarity. So even when you care deeply, you may withhold certain forms of nurture, not because you lack compassion, but because you're protecting the container in which love exists. You give from a place of internal alignment. Anything else feels like self-erasure. You also tend to give equally, almost idealistically. If you're putting in effort, you expect your partner to show up too, not in identical ways, but with mutual sincerity. You hold relationships to the same high standards you hold yourself to, and when the dynamic becomes imbalanced, you may quietly start giving less, slowly untangling your emotional investment without confrontation. For your moon, fairness is safety, but ironically, you're more emotionally affected by giving than you admit. You might donate energy and attention while telling yourself it's no big deal, only to later realize how depleted or unseen you feel. You struggle to ask for anything in return, not out of pride, but because you don't want to be needy. And so you give in silence, hoping your partner will intuitively give back. To deepen this intimacy, let others know how you do give. Say, I don't always express love traditionally, but when I support your freedom or send you something thoughtful, that's my version of care. Say, I don't always know how to respond emotionally, but I'm always thinking about how to support you in real ways. These clarifications create bridges between how you love and how others receive love. And practice receiving too, without feeling like it threatens your sovereignty. Let someone take care of you, even if they don't do it exactly as you would. Let them show affection without needing to match their expression. Accepting their offering doesn't make you weak. It makes your love reciprocal. Because when giving flows both ways, rooted in freedom, insight, and unspoken loyalty, your Aquarius moon experiences the kind of intimacy it quietly craves, a bond that isn't defined by emotional conformity, but by shared presence. A love that gives without possessing and receives without shrinking. A generosity that doesn't just soothe, it uplifts. A connection that says, you're free to be fully yourself, and I'll be right here, giving with you, not for you.